Hi guys, welcome back to another episode on the Six Sexy. If you're new to my channel, please hit that subscribe button down below. I post once a week and I'd love to have you a part of our little family. In today's video, I am super excited because I have a very special guest on the Six Sexy, and that is Anne Welsh. Anne is the author of Painless, Living with Pain, Finding Joy. She's also an amazing woman. She's a CEO, she's a motivational speaker, she's a company owner, and among many other things, she lives with invisible illness, being sickle cell, which, as you know, is very, very close to my heart because I too have sickle cell. So we basically delved into what it means to have invisible illness, fighting stigmas in day-to-day life, and basically finding joy in your life, which is the motto of her company, Painless Universal. So without further ado, let's get started into the interview, and if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below, and until next time, I'll see you guys later. So today I have the great honour of introducing you to the amazing Anne Welsh. Anne is the acclaimed author of Painless, Living with Pain, Finding Joy, where she speaks about her everyday journey with sickle cell and having a positive mindset. In addition to her written work, Anne is also on the board of Arise Consult, which is a leading business development firm in London. Anne is also the president and CEO of her very motivational platform called Painless Universal, which you can find on YouTube and which I will link in the description down below, where she has some powerful conversations about hard subjects like invisible illness with talented people from all around the world. So Anne, welcome to the Six Sexy.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sophie, for having me. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm so good. I'm very, very happy to have you here on the platform. And I guess my first question that I wanted to start with was, what inspired you to write Painless, Living with Pain, Finding Joy?
And when I think about it, I think I started in 2012. I started thinking about it. And when you start thinking, you start saying to yourself, do I want to write a book? Should I really put myself out there? Because you read so many autobiography, part memoir, self-help books. And one thing I always find the gap in is that a lot of people are very good writers, but very people have actually been through it themselves. So we're reading books that people have not physically been through it themselves. But I've always been nervous about putting my book name out there because if a lot of things that we go through with chronic illness are quite embarrassing as well. And there are things that people stereotype. There's a lot of stigma associated with it. When you talk about relationships, talking about difficulties getting jobs, talk about the weird habits as well. I was always like, why would I want to put that out there? Why would I want that negative part of me in the world for people to read about? But I think in 2012, when my mentor said to me, you need to really, the only way you can help others is if you put it in paper and let people know what you've been through. And so I started writing a book, and I skipped out so many aspects of our life, but I thought it's none of your business. And I think when the book is ready, I made this book. I made up to chapter 10, and after a while, I just dumped that book. I said, no, enough is this book. That's even though I didn't go into details about specifics in my life, but people read the book, said, especially family members, said the book is missing. What do you mean the book is missing? It's telling a story about a girl living with sickle cell, a girl going through pain, and it's also a self-help book. I said, but most of your real chapters of your life that really caused you pain, you've missed them now. I said, yes, because those parts of my life was very embarrassing. The part where I was ungraded in school. Why would I want to talk about that? The part where I eat foam. Why would I have sponges? Why would I want to talk about all that? That's an embarrassing part of my life. But they said to me, those are the part of your life that tells your story. Those are the part of your life that talks about your struggle. You need to include all of that in the book. So I said, you know what? Forget it. Done. I'm not doing this book anymore. I'm not comfortable someone saying to me, I read your book, and it's like, I read about you, I know everything about you. But now, forget it. So I left the book, put the book aside. Then 2017, fast forward, had my daughter, And I just said, you know what? Sophie just came to me in a strong wave, because I also saw the difficulties I went through pregnancy with my daughter, being a sickle cell sufferer. Something just came onto me and said, do it. Just do it. Put it out there. Put your story. And I just did. I didn't skip any part of my life. I just put everything out there. And that's how the book came about. It wasn't easy, but it was the inspiration of my suffering and other people's suffering that really led me to say to myself, this is time that if I could help one person not to go through the difficulties I had at university, I had as a child, the difficulty I had getting married, the difficulty I had having kids, the difficulty I had, every aspect of my life, the difficulty I had balancing it all. If I could put a stop to that, why not?
That's
So that's what
beautiful.
I found.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. So you think, I like that. So through the birth of your daughter, you were inspired to give back to the world. She kind of opened your heart in that sense.
Absolutely. My daughter was really the inspirational person towards it. She, when I had my daughter in 2017, it was an okay, easy birth for the first 5 months. 4 months. It was just easy, but after that, it was incredibly difficult. She was born early, like my son. He was born at 35 weeks. It was just becoming so difficult even to carry her in the tummy. It was just the pain that was going through and all kinds of pain. And then I couldn't do blood transfusion because of my body rejects blood. So they couldn't do. So even though my HB level was going as low as possible, I remember the day they said you have to have the baby and your HB level was about 5.
Wow.
That's not been done. And they said, yes, it's not been done, but you are one of a kind and we're going to try it with you. And that inspired me that, no matter what we're going through, if you don't let others know that it can be done, because a lot of my life I've believed by reading other people's story, those people who have really gone through pain in whatever form of life. I've seen that. I said, oh, if they could do it, if they could be this way, that means I could do this. I could eventually get a job. I could do this. So why be selfish about your own story and hide it, keep it to yourself when other people absolutely need that story?
That's amazing. And I think that's something, when we live with invisible illness, we tend to think we're the only ones that are experiencing that. And to come to a place in your life where you realize that the whole world could benefit from your story is not only just powerful, but it's so courageous, because so many of us tend to shield our weaknesses or hide our pain because we don't want to burden others, when really you'd be helping another person by expressing that.
That's true.
So that's wonderful. So that kind of leads into my second question, which is, how do you manage your invisible illness and your chronic pain, whether that be through food or lifestyle? How do you manage that and overcome it?
I think that's a very good question, because a lot of people ask me that all the time. And how do you manage not being in hospital? Because I've just said to someone this morning, I'm so delighted. I haven't been in hospital for about 3 years. And they're like, really? What do you do? And I really say this, and I say it very proudly. I live a stress-free life. If I see things that lead into stress, automatically, and through no fault of mine, I actually back away. Even though I haven't resolved that issue yet, I wait to absolutely things calm down. Then I say, okay, let's have that discussion again. I have a resolution of that conversation which we started. But I never, when things are so heated up and my heart is really pumping with anger, rage, I try not to continue that conversation. I've trained myself in a very hardcore way to be calm and breathe in, breathe out, relax, and even if they're still talking, I'm trying to blank out that their voice is still making me. I just focus on my inner peace for that time, because I know at the end of the day, it won't be them that will be hurt from the stress of our voices bouncing off one another. It will be me that will be hurt. And all they could say to you is, I'm sorry. And I'm sorry does not help me when I'm in hospital with IV all around me and all that. So when I think about that, I always try to remain very calm in a situation when I know they might be, that it might lead me to be stressed. And because stress and worries don't get me. And also, I reduce my wants and needs. I focus so much on what I need rather than what I want. I could want things, I could look at things and say, oh my God, I love this bag, I love this house. But I look at it in a social way with peace in my heart that if I have it, I have it. And if I don't, it's fine. I'm happy about that. I'm not going to be upset or start stressing myself or stressing someone else out to say, oh, we must do this, we must do that. Because I think those kind of stress of wants and needs are things that has driven a lot of people to do things that, because you want this so badly. But sometimes you have to ask yourself, do you really want it or do you need it? Because what are the consequences of you having that thing? Because sometimes you might think you want this job, but have you ever thought about the aftermath of the job? If you get a certain kind of job, you're working long hours. You're working with people who would demand from you, now, I want this, now, I can't take. And can your body really handle that kind of stress? So I live a life where I don't compare myself to others. I'm very grateful who I am and what I am. I'm not trying to be, oh, let me be like this person. I just learn from people, but I don't try to be like them. And that's where I separate myself from anxiety, stress, because anxiety and stress comes from when you want too much or need to be like somebody else, I'm not being grateful, appreciating your presence and who you are. So these things help me to really reduce stress, and also lifestyle choices as well. Because I work so hard, especially being owning my own business, especially in several businesses. I have kids. So because of all that, I really balance myself. And how do I balance myself? I have to know sometimes I just have to not do certain things on certain days and just say, you know what, man, just give yourself a break and separate it. I've separated my life by having work phone and two mobiles. One is for work, and when I'm out, I don't take the work one and only have personal calls on a day off. And really, because you really need to integrate those things in your life, because I think these are things that, because we want, we forget about you. And one thing chronic illness has taught me is that you are the most important person of your own destiny. And if you forget you and don't make time for you, even the little exercise, just going for little steps or drinking water when you need it or eating the right balanced diet makes a huge difference. That's how I balance, and that's how I've managed to stay healthy.
That's fantastic. That's I think that balance is something that we all struggle with when we're kind of constantly on the rat race of trying to compare ourselves to other people or other people's success. So I think it's really wonderful that you've found that balance in your own life and you're able to, move forward with that and recognize when you need to stop and slow down. That actually leads me into my third question, which is how do you balance the idea of being a successful businesswoman? Because I know you have a lot of business ventures. You're also a mother and a wife. How do you balance that with also having a chronic illness that for most of us is debilitating, given that you don't have things like blood transfusions and treatments like that?
No, great. It's hard, I would say. I would say absolutely it's hard because you look at your peers and they're doing certain things and you want to, work as hard. But it was hard at the beginning. I would say now it's much easier because I've realized you have to work for your passion. You have to work for something you really enjoy. So I don't take on things I don't enjoy because I wouldn't be happy waking up to do it. So since I've started doing my passion, things that I really absolutely enjoyed, when I learned about that, my passion was what I do now. For example, I love consulting. I love talking to people. I love meeting people, talking about their struggles. And this is something I do in a day job, meeting top executives, talking to them about where their challenges are in life. I love that because that's just my passion, because probably through my own struggles, I found my way to navigate myself out of pain. I always want to help others to see how they could do the same and navigate themselves out of pain. I hate when it doesn't matter if it's a country, it doesn't matter if it's a corporation or individual community. I hate when they are suffering and they can't make it work. So what I do, I love to do that, and that love of more love doing what I do has helped me in the sense that me working doesn't feel like work. It just feels like I'm just doing a hobby that I enjoy doing, even though I'm working so hard, but it doesn't feel like that. I remember when I was doing jobs I didn't like because it wasn't my true calling. I just hated every aspect of it. I just didn't want to be at work. I didn't want to even do the driving. I didn't want to see the people I was working with because I just hated it. So once you find your true calling, and also then you're able to balance it. I'm able to balance it because I have a supportive family. My family network are very, very, very supportive. And because, sickle cell, which is one thing I tell people, we're lucky in one way that is a genetic blood disorder. So people know you from a small age of being like that, of being needy, of needing things, of needing help. So they don't see you as weird. My mom still understands if I tell my mom I can't do it. She's never questioning why. My husband is saying when I met my husband, he knew me as a sickle cell sufferer. So he knows my strengths and my weaknesses. So we never crossfiring at each other because he understands, and especially because he's seen me in hospital, so he understands, yes, this is her limitation. I better step away and just let her be. So with my kids, they've seen me in hospital, they know mommy's limitation, and they don't interfere when mommy needs her rest. My daughter, who's 3 years old, will knock on the door and go to everyone and say, shh, be quiet, mommy's sleeping. So it's that's the luck we have with having a chronic illness in a way when you're born with it, because people have been born with you and have seen you like that. They're able to adjust with you. My sisters have always understood. So rather than my sisters, and if we're doing family gatherings, rather than they say, "Oh, Anne, come to our house," they make it optional. They always come to me, unless I say to them, "You know what? I'm changing destination today. I'm coming to you guys." But they always understand that because Anne might be tired, we always make our way to her. So it's all about balance. To be successful at work, you need balance in the household. You need people to understand, and don't be scared. I tell people, even if you think you weren't born with your chronic illness, it's just started gradually, don't be afraid to disclose it to people, because what failure to disclose is leading to your biggest failure of not being able to do anything and achieve anything. That's how I've been able to do it.
That's wonderful advice. And I think it's very, very easy to get caught up in feeling like you're a burden. But it sounds like you have an amazing support system of people that, love you and understand, because it is difficult for people that haven't been through what we've been through to truly understand what you're going through. But does that mean that you haven't experienced any type of stigma in your life, or have you experienced stigma surrounding invisible illness that has inspired you to navigate it differently or speak about it differently?
I think stigma will always be there, especially because it's an invisible illness. So there'll always be stigma there. And when I say stigma, I mean, people will just look at you and judge you by your appearance and say, "What do you mean you're sick?" I remember, I think in 2011, I had a disabled badge, and because I used to be sick a lot, so I applied for it, and I got the disabled badge. So I used to use it when I go to hospital appointments, or when I just needed it because I can't find a place to park, and I was going through that hip problems, and I couldn't walk too far. I remember when I would park my car, I put my disabled badge, I remember the looks I would get from all kinds of people, like, what is this young girl, healthy looking, skinny like a model, coming out putting her disabled badge in. We don't see her mom next to her or her granddad next to her. So who gives her the right to do that? So you get all that kind of thing. You get people leaving messages on your car. Say, I saw you come out of the car. You do not deserve the disabled badge. I'm going to report you. I've taken a picture of your number plate. I'm going to report you because you do not deserve that disabled badge. And that's the stigma I've definitely suffered from. There's also the kind of illness which we suffer from is sickle cell anemia. Where I come from in Africa, it's still a taboo subject, especially some parts of it. Nigeria, not so much, but other parts of Africa, it's still a very big taboo subject to talk about. People don't want it because of they know the disadvantages that sickle cell brings. Like you might not be able to get married because no one will marry you. I remember I wanted to do a conversation with a girl in Ghana. I said to her, I would love to have a chat with you to talk about your illness and how you've overcome them. She said, I can't. I said, why? She said, because my mom will not let me, because my mom wants me to hide my illness, not let anyone know about it until I get married and have kids. Then I could come out. I said, that's not the way it should be. She said, because my mom doesn't feel that anyone would want to marry me with sickle cell. So, that stigma still, there's so much stigma attached in all sorts of ways. The stigma with, people misjudging your ability because they feel that, how can you complain that you can't do this hard work? How can you complain about, when you're young junior, when you just start at the corporate and you're working in the archive section and they want you to lift certain boxes or they want you to run up and down and go to all the different, they've misjudged the reason why you can't do that and they pick on you for that. So there's all kinds of stigma which you will definitely face from a physical in the illness. Why if someone comes on a wheelchair or someone comes with physical disability, you immediately not judge that person. That person has that. That I know that it gives you the strength to keep fighting because you know what you have. And when you know what you have, there's nothing about it. There's nothing anyone could say that makes you cringe or worry about it. You just keep doing you and keep believing you and keep educating them. So what I do, I keep sending them websites and say, look, people could do this. This is sickle cell anemia. This is what we suffer from. And just keep educating them. But there will always be stigma when you have an invisible illness. It's almost like the COVID-19. There's a stigma to it and people not taking it seriously because people don't see it. If we were fighting a war, people will be like, when the government says stay home, people really stay home because they know the enemy is close by. But because we can't see it, when the government says stay home, you're like, stay home for what? I can't see anything. That's the stigma.
Yeah, it's a very, very pertinent way to look at it, Anne, because I think stigma is invisible and it's all around us, and until we start educating others and teaching others that it's perfectly normal, the whole idea of a disabled girl that doesn't look disabled looks perfectly fine. I myself have experienced that many times to the point where I have not parked in a disabled park even though I'm entitled to parking there, purely because I don't want to receive the negative onlook from other people. And it is sad that it's still an issue in today's society, seeing as there are so many different conditions in the world. But I also think there's something to be said for, that strength and that resilience in saying, well, no, I'm going to park where I want to park. And if someone else has an issue with it or they have a preconceived notion, then that's really their burden. You just have to live in your truth and live honestly, which is what you're doing. So my final question for you, which is one I've been very, very interested to hear about, is this what inspired you to start Painless Universal? How did the idea of that come about?
So Painless Universal is actually a company. So our goal is to end the pain epidemic, the way people look at pain. And when I say pain, I don't say just chronic illness pain. I talk about all kinds of pain: country pain, community pain, corporate pain, individual pains. Chronic illness is one of my biggest baby I focus on because of my own passion of having my own chronic illness. I think a lot of things we don't talk about with people with chronic illness is the pain they go through on a daily basis of getting a job, getting married, being consistent with life, meeting up to that standard. So my goal with Painless Universal is to help. Is to help. So it's a I would say I wouldn't say it's a platform because it's a company that really is out there to change our narrative of how we discuss pain. So we're partnering with different organizations now to really have these global meetings around the world. Especially, unfortunately, we couldn't do it this year. We'll start next year where we have global meetings with global leaders, key communities, corporates, individuals, everyone. We want them there to start discussing how can we change our narrative on pain? Because when you talk about pain, like for example, when someone says they have a back pain, the way we look at that, we're always scared about the narrative of pain. Or when someone says they're going through divorce pain, we're like, what do you mean you're going through divorce pain? They're really going through divorce pain and that's affecting them mentally. So how do you communicate that message and make sure that whoever is going through this pain, whatever pain you're going, right now the country is going through coronavirus pain. How do you help your citizens to come out of that pain, but still be a country that can still deliver for its country citizens? So Painless Universal started. It started this year actually, but it started from the success of the book. I saw the book and I said, "Do I go on to write another book?" Writing another book would just be a good reading platform for people to read again. I wanted to put action to paper, action to start working, people to now start doing things rather than I just read a book and dump it and no follow up, nothing concrete happens out of that. I wanted you've read my book, you've seen the challenges people with chronic illness go through, you've seen the challenges with other people go through different pains. Let's talk about that. We have the show where we talk about that. We have events and we have the consultation where we work with you to really deal with your pain issues.
That's
Yes.
wonderful. So Painless Universal is quite comprehensive in that it doesn't just target one specific area of pain. You're encompassing so many different topics that we don't talk about over the dinner table, but we really should be because they affect us all in so many different ways.
Yes, yes. No, absolutely. I've had some interesting stories from it, like people talking about pains you never want to even talk about. And you're like, wow, I didn't know that was an issue. That, sex change pain, the bullying they get, literally bullying they get. And we talk about it. It's, some subjects we talk about are very, very difficult subjects to talk about. But these people want to talk about their pain they're going through. Give them the platform. Companies, they have to lay off staff. And because they're not making business as usual, things are not going accordingly. Difficult topic to have, difficult conversation. But we have to talk about it. And we have to talk because by talking, other people are learning. If they're going through that same struggle, what is it that they need to implement to make sure for future references, they don't go through that same pain? It's almost like the chronic illness pain. If you read my book, you realize that as a sickle cell sufferer, as a child, it was very difficult for me. I wasn't able to excel. And I felt, why are my sisters doing so well? But there is me, this dumb girl, cannot do anything. I just felt like, why can't I achieve? But I didn't realize there was just a gap with my parents not knowing how to deal with my sickle cell. I was bedwetting until I was 15 years old. That's when I stopped bedwetting the bed. But my parents didn't know there was a trick behind me to stop me bedwetting. Like, stop me drinking. I know because they say sickle cell sufferers needed water. So my parents would make me drink and drink and drink at nighttime. And they didn't realize that drinking so much water at nighttime, I could only wake up so much. It got to the time I would know I had to wake up, but I just think, I've been doing this waking up 3 times now, 4th time, no. This is where it's going to land. And if we don't talk about it, we don't know that was a big pain I went through. And I just realized every time I talk to everyone, I just realize everybody's going through different kinds of pain. Why can't we put that on the table? They have a pain, pain compensation and pain solution, and the epidemic of pain, and see how we could find joy along the way. So even if you're making people redundant, you don't understand the person who's actually doing it is going through a massive pain because he doesn't want to see you don't want to see people you love that you have been working with you for many, many years get redundant. Please, how do you balance that out? That's what Painless Universal is all about, and is a company that is really looking to change the narrative of pain and help us find joy along the way.
That's beautiful. That's just the reason I was so drawn to Painless Universal is because nothing like that, to my knowledge, exists. We've always had counselling options. We've always had, this biomedical model of care, which says if you're feeling a certain way, you go to your doctor, who will give you a referral to see a psychologist, and it's very clinical. And I think, the wonderful thing about Painless Universal is it encompasses that support network without stigmatizing the person, without labeling the problem. You just have a place where you can talk about it, and in a kind of way, it makes me feel like it's a bit of a movement. Would you agree that it's a movement to change the narrative about the way we view pain?
Yes, it is. I love that. It is definitely a movement. It is a movement that, it's almost like that movement that wants to change the way we eat. That this is my narrative of the way we see pain, the way we view pain, and change that narrative in a massive way. That even countries that are going through war, suffering through so much pain, not knowing, not realizing if their economy would ever go back. But I believe them talking more about it and them telling their story so people really understand what are you going through. Because a lot of people don't understand, people don't know. So how would you change that narrative? And that's the movement. It's really to change that movement of how we see and experience pain, and how could we find joy at the end of it. My thing is that when I leave there, I want to say that this person has found joy at the end of it.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming onto the Sick Sexy and sharing your time and sharing your truth with me. I'm very honoured. I know you're a very busy woman, and I know you don't have a lot of time to share, but I feel like a lot of people will benefit from this conversation and benefit from hearing your story. If anyone is interested in going to Painless Universal and seeing some of the awe-inspiring conversations that Anne has with many amazing people around the world going through their own journey with chronic pain, I will link Painless Universal in the description. But I'd just like to take a moment to say thank you, Anne, and stick around after, and I'll have a quick chat with you before we go. But I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you so much, and I'm absolutely delighted to have you, really join you on your journey, because your journey really inspires me a lot as well.
Really likewise.